The only thing I asked of Mr. Ramsey is if he would like, I would pay for the ream of paper. And he says, no, I can get that from the HSA community. I asked him, I'll pay for the printing, or I'll go get them printed for you. He says, you have to be kidding me. It cost me, 0.48 cents, per copy. He says, I'll be happy to do that for this type of program. And let me finish. And I asked permission to extend the meeting while I was there. And that's why I asked our president, were you there? And where did he get that information? I asked permission from the principal to go forward. And I said, when the janitor has to leave, we have to leave. So there was no extra cost. The janitor was going to be there until I forgot what time. So there's no extra cost involved in that. So let's make an assumption that a ream of paper costs 500 sheets, costs $2.50, and let's just say you need 1,000 sheets, which you didn't. So that's like $5, and printing is a small amount. You're talking about very little amount of cost that goes right into the LCAP budget. So the monies for that is already carved out. So the issue of cost, you push back on me about this website, uploading it to the website. I reached out to a parent who does that regularly, and I watched her do it. And it took her less than a minute to upload. So if it takes your staff less than a minute to upload a document, then you have bigger issues. And so every single thing that you came back and told me about, everything, I said, I'll get a volunteer to do it. You gave me a really big problem about translation. One of your principals in your school offered to translate that for Mr. Ramsey. It got done like that. And there was no issue on it. And as far as the translation at the event for the Latino community, there was translation units there with a person, and it was a volunteer person. Now, ask me, how many people use that? 0. I was at Martin Murphy's open house. I went in the back before the meeting. I says, how many to the translation lady? Her name was Selena. I says, how many people have come up to use the translation unit? Oh, we get very few, none so far, because the Spanish-speaking community really wants to learn English. So when they go home at night, they can speak English to their kids. So they don't use these units anymore. I went after the meeting. 0 units were loaned out. So you made a big deal about this translation. I took care of that issue. And now you're trying to make a big deal of that and the cost when we have a budget in LCOT going forward. I don't get it. It's very evident that certain board members don't want this to go forward. And I hear their concerns. This is like dialoguing with the community. I hear your concerns. And I would never try and usurp my authority. So what I'm getting from this is we're not going to have it at schools because there's resistance to having it at schools, unless it's on your terms relative to carving out protocols and rules and guidelines that are inappropriate for a forum of that type. Okay, at the beginning, you could work it out by upfront telling the community you can't talk about personnel issues. You can't, be respectful of one another. There are questions that you can't answer, but you have to make sure you get them to the appropriate person. All of what I said was said there that night.
Mr. President, point of order. We're at 11:10 now, and I believe.
No, we didn't make a motion. It didn't pass. We just can go as long as we
Okay.
want.
All right.
There's no motion to adjourn, so
Just wanted to be sure we're all legal.
that might do the first thing.
So going forward, I have no options to work with the board so we can go as one unit going out to the community. So I'll figure out another option going forward.
Okay, and I did have one request of you, and that is the attendees and the questions so that the board may prepare a response to the superintendent's office. Are you going to submit those? The questions that came in. That was the purpose of the meeting, right?
That was
Communicate to the board.
That was the purpose.
So, do you have those with you, and can you present
I
them?
don't have them.
Can you deliver them to Janie tomorrow or Friday? Or
I-
within this week?
I think I could do that.
All right, I appreciate that.
But can I ask you why you would want them if you're not approving?
Well, because you presented it under the guise of Borgioli.
Okay, that's fair. That's a fair statement. Yeah,
Thank you.
absolutely.
All right.
I
That's
wait,
it.
wait, I haven't talked yet.
Wait a minute.
You haven't spoken, we've already taken a vote.
No, but I have some more comments after your comment, in response to your comment. So, you made a comment about a trustee being a master and governance trustee there, and it should have stopped as a personnel issue. But there was no personnel issue that was addressed. Were you there?
My wife.
Yeah, but
You sent your wife there?
My wife was there?
But the conversation was between.
She's a community member.
No, no,
She's like graduated from the
I have the floor, please. The conversation was between the parent and the principal, who haven't had conversations in the past. It's not a personnel issue, it's their conversation.
Was it in public? Was it in public?
Absolutely.
It's a personnel issue.
No, that's
Okay.
restricted.
That being said, Superintendent made a comment about at the retreat and at the last meeting, there was a consensus for Gino to move forward. And I'd like to know the difference between a consensus and an approval.
Thank you. That was what I was hoping to get to at some point. So when the program grew, other than just a casual meeting, I'm going to meet you in the El Toro area for outreach. When it grew to more than a majority, to a majority of the board, when it required school facilities, prep, and such, that's when we really needed to find funding. And reflective questions, to give them all the credit, he said, we'll get volunteers for that, we'll get people to donate, we'll go pick up reams of paper, and he wanted the flyers in all the Friday folders. We dialogued back and forth, that's 9,000 kids. Who's going to put them in? He said, well, Home and School Club, he's at TV, Home and School Club puts them in all the time. We don't have to have staff do it, but who's going to copy them off? We needed to translate the outreach. It was really important, and the bilingual issue was or I should say the Spanish issue was a very, very important issue, and he did not play that down at all. For me, it was important for outreach that we can't just assume that somebody is going to get a flyer that is English and ask somebody to translate it for them so that they are aware of that. But we have parents that don't necessarily speak English. And so that was important to get that. It was important to engage the entire community. And having translators there, that was something I repeatedly asked Trustee Borgioli to think about. The outreach to Darrington was my outreach. I suggested when Trustee Borgioli was in my office that we contact Darrington. I called, found out he was upstairs, and I brought Trustee Borgioli up there. And then at the time, Mr. Ramsey was also talking with the value of the Spanish-speaking community and was insistent that so important that he would make sure that he would provide a translator at the meeting and get that information out. So those are some of the basics of our need if a program like this is going to go forward. We can't ignore our population of our school district because they don't speak English. We have to have that outreach. That is especially for a population that doesn't feel engaged, that is marginalized. So that and the cost. 9,000 papers in Friday folders does have a cost to it. And so those are the questions. And I understand that sometimes we feel it's a great idea. Outreach is a great idea. I was very supportive, as you remember. But we have to make sure that we do it right. In this district, we want to do things right from the get-go. And I was very willing to jumpstart it for the El Toro. As a matter of fact, it was so important that as long as they had trouble finding a date for El Toro, so I left them to work out a date. Our staff, it didn't work with our staff, so we couldn't be there. So those are issues. The Brown Act is a very, very important issue. And what we know is that there were 5 board members there. There shouldn't be more than 3 because it constitutes a Brown Act violation. You have to publicize the meeting. You have to notice the media. They have to get an agenda. You have to talk about what's going to be. There can't be action unless it's agendized. The input, there's got to be protocols for it. You have to let people know about it. And you can't discuss, if you have more than 3 issues about the district, because that constitutes a Brown Act violation. So there's certain things that if this is going to be something the board wants to do, and everybody believes outreach is great, outreach can be done individually. You did it at the coffee. If we have an organized thing, that what I ask for is that we develop, as I asked you, I was willing to work with you on developing what the costs of each of these activities are, leading up to and the implementation, and what are we going to do at the end? What are our processes going to be at the end? Now, we need that if this is going to be a formal issue. There are costs associated with that. For every cost, we have to take that money from somewhere else. We could say there's lots of money in LCAP. Well, I tell you what, we could spend every single penny 10 times over that comes from LCAP with the recommendations from staff and the community during the LCAP process. 10 times over. We could, all over. So what I ask is if this is really a board action, and I hear 2 different things, that you don't want it to be a board action necessarily.
You can set a precedent by having it on an action item. That means every time a board trustee goes out and does outreach, it has to be a board action. If you want to do that, then that's perfectly fine.
No, not necessarily.
Okay?
No.
This does not require a board action. If you want to make it into an action item, like you did, that's perfectly fine. It's very obvious the road that you would like to go. So I said my piece. I'll pick some other way on how to do outreach in the community. The whole purpose was to go at the school. We had a great turnout. Go to other schools, have great turnouts. It's on their home location, not church location. It's on their location. So it makes it easy for each school to have it. But those types of ideas, it sounds like nobody, well, very few of us are open.
Still willing to work with you.
I'm backing off, and we dialogued on it. I'm not sure if Mr. Padillo is going to say anything else, but I know my direction now. The community knows your direction, and I'm okay with it.
I'd like to move on to the next item of business,
Well,
please.
I have one more thing to say.
Okay.
Please. Mr. Borgioli said he submitted a proposal, because that's what you had mentioned about that, for him to bring a proposal forward. He said he submitted it to the superintendent. The superintendent responded with recommendations. But from what I understand, Mr. Borgioli was hoping to get that out to the board members, because he can't send it to everybody to be about be presented. I didn't know that was.
Yeah, that's That's what you have as an attachment is his proposal. The
No,
very,
no,
the very same proposal.
First,
This is the same proposal.
The proposal was to be brought to the board for review.
Nobody ever.
No, it wasn't a question of an agreement of everybody.
Well,
It was
well-
requested of you. If you want
I
to
was-
present an
I
item,
was supposed to work with the superintendent.
and it was.
I CC'd you on everything that I copied.
This conversation is really
Exactly.
going in circles.
We
So why
know
don't
the
we
direction
terminate?
that you want to go, so again, I'm fine with that. I'll use the venue. I'm sorry to interrupt you. Did you finish your comment?
no, he said 9,000 students. We have 9,000 students in the district. He said 9,000 people.
Yeah, I rounded.
I'm thinking, great, we got 9,000 students.
Well, you have much more with adult ed.
I think
but-
you only have
and
500
adult ed, you need
adults.
almost. But the,
Let's move on to item